All right, my friends, welcome back to another episode of the Build Show podcast. That's right, my weekly time to get together with you and go deep. We're here at the Rice Build Studios. I've got an old builder friend of mine in the studio, and we are talking this week again on the Origin series. I think it's really important for especially our younger audience to understand that there's all kinds of people with all kinds of backgrounds in this business. And so I'm wanting to find a whole group of my builder friends, mostly Austin friends, who are young and old and small companies and big companies and all kinds of different people to share their stories of how they got into it, what their companies are like. I think there's so many opportunities. And for my older friends or the friends that are my age, I think it's really, there's something about hearing a builder's story that's very comforting. You know, I always say, no one understands my life like another builder, right? You know, when I talk to my buddies that are doctors or that are accountants or, you know, have a corporate job, they don't understand the stress that I go through and what it's like. And so there's something about having a conversation with a fellow builder who really gets the stress of the job, what it's like dealing with clients and craftsmanship and trades. So I think that there's kind of two audiences for this podcast. With that being said, this is the Origin series. We're talking with my friend Emily Press with Emerald and Laurel. Let's get going. All right, guys, before we jump in with Emily, I want to say two thank yous to sponsors. First off, let's talk Sugitsuni. This is a hardware company that's a Japanese company that makes some absolutely fantastic hardware. They have a giant catalog. They're in all kinds of different places when it comes to hardware in a house. But I've used them the most on my hidden door projects. They have just a fabulous catalog of hardware, like I said. But I think what really separates them is people. I actually have a contact there, this guy Keith, who's based out of Chicago. They have people in Chicago and people in LA who I've kind of grabbed onto as my Sugitsuni guy. And when I have a project, I'll call him and say, hey, here's what I'm trying to do. Here's the requirements. Will you point me to some things that you think might work in the catalog? And Keith will send me a cut sheet. He'll even send me a sample sometimes if I need it. And I got to tell you, my relationship with Keith is the kind of relationship that I absolutely love with the manufacturer. So not only great products, but fantastic people and great service. And that's kind of hard to find in the hardware world, to be totally honest. There's lots of good hardware in the world, but having people that you know and trust and can make a phone call to, that's Sugitsuni. So go check them out. If you just Google Sugitsuni, you can find their website. Next up, I want to say a big thanks to Diamond Coat. If you're a builder that uses engineered wood, you need to know about Diamond Coat. They have a siding system that's very unique. And in particular, they have a brand new product I want to tell you about. They have this thing called the Natural Collection. It's the first of its kind on engineered wood, which features a non-repeating wood grain texture and natural color variations, which really gives this siding an organic look and feel to really look like real wood, that is, with unparalleled realism and charm, assuring that no two boards are the same. But of course, this is an engineered product, so it's incredibly easy to work with and really, really nice on the job site when it comes to the carpenters and the guys who are actually installing it. You can look them up at Diamond Coat, K-O-T-E, siding.com. Their Instagram handle, which is also a great place to kind of see their products, Diamond_Coat, K-O-T-E. We also did a giant barndominium project with their pre-finished siding that kind of gave a modern farmhouse kind of look. So you can go actually check out one of my builds with Diamond Coat too that we just finished recently. Really, really cool project. All right, guys, with that being said, let's jump into Emily. Emily, thank you for taking time for me today.
Thanks for having me.
So Emily, first, before we kind of jump into your origin, tell us who Emerald and Laurel is today. Like, what do you guys do? What's your niche and your specialty?
Okay, I want to get into that, but I first wanted to echo what you were saying about Sugitsuni because I worked with them on a project.
Oh, you did? Awesome.
And so I want people to know that it's not just the big builders. Like, oh, I'm Matt Reisinger, and so they'll call you back.
Yeah.
I had a project where we were having some issues with some of the hardware, installing it, and I called, immediately talked to somebody, like, I'm on site with the carpenter.
How about that?
And he's
That's
having
awesome.
issues, and I'm like, I need to talk to somebody. She's like, hold, he's in a meeting. Call me back in 30 minutes. And so we were able to get the install done. So
how about that?
Yeah. So they're really, really good.
Organic commercial for our friends at Sugitsuni. They're legit.
Yeah. Yeah, I give them an A++. Yeah,
Fabulous.
customer service. So for Emerald and Laurel, you asked about kind of my origin, sort of where I started. It's been a winding road to get here. It was not a linear, linear line that we walked to get here.
Before you get to that, though, I want to hear what you do today. Like, if you're just meeting a prospect for the very first time or an architect, who do you say you are?
So we are a design build firm in Austin, Texas. The majority of our projects are in Austin and the surrounding area. And you can work with us in 3 ways. We provide layout services. So it's a kind of a consulting and doing like floor plans, consulting to see if it's a feasible project. Because we have a lot of experience and we're experts in floor planning that we can, imagine things that homeowners couldn't imagine was possible.
Awesome.
Mainly within the existing footprint of their house.
Yeah,
That's
so remodel.
what we're remodel.
Yeah.
I love remodels.
Yeah.
And then we also do interior design for homeowners in collaboration with builders and architects. And so we can help with picking out all your interior architecture details, materials, finishes, paint, all of that. And then the next step is we do design build. So that's on interior remodels, is where we've gotten today. That's not where we started, but now we do interior design and build specifically on interior remodels. That's whole house, 5,000 square foot whole house to a kitchen remodel.
That's killer. And how big are you these days? How many people do you have working for you?
Right now, I have 2.
Okay, perfect.
Me and I have an assistant, and then also BB helps me some.
Awesome.
It's a family affair.
That's fantastic.
My parents live in Georgetown. My brother lives in Round Rock, so my mom helps with like running errands, picking up materials.
That's awesome.
Project managing.
That's
so
fabulous.
she retired a few years ago, so she likes to see me and see my kids, and so she likes to kind of be in the mix.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, now let's switch gears. How did you get here? Like you've been in business for quite a few years. Because I met you on a job almost a decade ago now.
I think I was looking back.
It's been a while
before we had
ago.
this conversation. I think it was like 2015 or 16.
Yeah, almost a decade ago. We did a really cool video on a project you were doing that was a whole house remodel on a 1930s or 40s house in Terrytown where you were trying to figure out, hey, how do I reuse all the existing wood siding, but make sure, hey, when I insulate this, that I don't have a problem. And together we kind of came up with a cool solution to insulate the house, but also get some airflow behind that siding.
We did, and I've used that detail again. And I still get people calling me and emailing me about that.
That's awesome.
That detail. Yeah. But yeah, I think that was back in 2015. But I started. This all really kind of started when I grew up in. My dad owns a machine shop, so a industrial hard chrome plating machine shop. So I started out. Like most like middle schoolers or high schoolers are getting a job like at the local restaurant. Like I was on the beater.
You were working in the machine shop.
I was glass beater.
That's so awesome.
I was working on the lathe, polishing parts. I was
so cool.
Learning about the grinding and honing and lacquer thinner, and I was learning how to chrome plate. And that's sort of like how I grew up, just making things and building things. And as I got older, I always stayed in the business, even though I kind of moved on to doing other jobs. But I was really a big part of like creating a lot of the systems, a lot of the processes that we had in the business. We work with a lot of like oil and gas and aerospace. And so there's lots of entities that kind of manage that. And you have to have certifications. And so you have to have all these processes and documentation. So I worked closely with my brother in building that system and those processes. And so I say that only because I feel like it's so integral to what I do now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a completely different industry, but a lot of those same principles and priorities and processes sort of apply.
Yep.
And so that's sort of like a direct line. So the other jobs I did while I was always kind of part-time working with my dad is I went to business school at St. Ed's and played soccer.
Oh, yeah.
And after that I worked, so I worked after that I worked like at a desk and was like, I can't sit at this desk.
This is terrible.
I hate sitting at this desk and working at the computer. Like, this is not for me. And so I went back to interior design school at Texas State, lived in South Austin,
awesome.
Went back to school. And then after that, I worked in a commercial design firm. And then I also went out and worked selling Italian leather to commercial firms.
Whoa.
So I've been on job sites. So then I was kind of on job sites, that were under construction for commercial. We worked on I was a part of like the design intern for like working on the Whole Foods project when it was coming in. So just kind of been around build and commercial builds. And then whenever I started thinking about, we had 3 kids. We bought a house in 2009. And it was a 1,300 square foot house, 1950s house in Central Austin. And I was like, oh my gosh, we have 1 full bathroom. There are 3 children in this house, and I have a husband, and we have 1 half bath. And I was
your husband's not in the building world at all, right?
And my husband's like, he's like, he was a bartender and a server, and then he's in tech sales. Like he's just like not his thing.
That's funny.
I'm like, we need more space. And I don't know why, like it just never crossed my mind that I was going to hire a builder. I just like, I don't know.
I can do this.
I was like, I can do this. Like I can. And so really thanks to you.
That's awesome.
Because I was getting on to YouTube and
Were you watching my videos at that time?
Yes, that's the only reason why I'm sitting.
You're like, OG. I just started in 08.
Yeah,
so.
I'm like, the only reason I'm sitting here is because of you.
That's
because
so funny.
I started.
I promise I didn't purposely invite you because of this.
No,
I didn't
he
know
did not know this. Yeah, I was like, this is all, you just heard this for the first time.
Hilarious.
Yeah. So I started watching the build show. And I think the reason why your channel sort of connected with me is that I'm a perfectionist. I'm super detail oriented.
Yes, you are.
And I'm super annoying to my husband.
I've seen that about
you.
Just
kidding. So I'm very detail oriented. You can see I have all my my notes. Like I want to be prepared. And so like that connected with me because it was so much about doing good work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so and I wanted to do good work. I was an inexperienced builder, but I wanted to do good work. And so I installed a rain screen on my house.
Yes.
The house had cedar shingles.
Beautiful.
So beautiful. A builder down the street was like, you need to put Hardy on that house.
You're like, I don't want to do that.
I'm not putting Hardy on this house. Are you kidding me? It actually originally did have, it was a board and batten that the original owner, which we're only the second owners, he added the cedar shingles. And we're kind of called the Portland house on our street because it looks very like Portland.
Not Austin.
Yeah, it doesn't look Austin, but I wanted to put it back because I loved it. I loved it so much. So we put a very simple rain screen with just like little slats, like nothing fancy.
Just need
a lot of the
airflow.
Products that are out now weren't available then.
Yeah, for sure.
But we did a rain screen and
just shy of 20 years ago at this point.
Yeah, so it was like we did that, and that was an addition. It was a remodel and an addition with a master bedroom, bathroom on the back. And then it was just like a slow growth. I'd kept working with my dad and just sort of doing that build. And then someone was like, oh, you do that? And I'm like, yeah, I do. I can do it, and then got that project that we worked together on in Terrytown. And that project was a whole house remodel, addition, and an ADU on the back.
It was quite a big project.
So it was a big project.
Bunch of new construction plus a huge renovation.
Yeah, and that soil there was really bad.
Yeah,
so that was the
Terrytown
whole
is
thing.
awful.
Yeah. So in that area specifically, learned a lot on that project.
I bet.
A lot.
Haven't we all?
Yeah. So that was a great project, and I was really grateful to you for coming on and helping with that detail because that homeowner was she also watched the build show.
Oh, really?
So
That's hilarious.
And she knew,
I'd forgotten that.
And she knew, kind of my experience with following you, and so she was really the building science part of it was very important to her.
That's cool.
And so that's kind of how we ended up connecting.
That's awesome.
With you to make that work.
How do you find most of your prospects these days? How do most people find you?
Word
Are
of
you all
mouth.
word of mouth? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You don't advertise in any traditional
nothing.
sense.
Yeah.
You're on Instagram a fair amount, though. Do you find that Instagram, people are like, oh, my friend used Emerald Laurel, or I saw this, I've been following your feed, and I finally have a project that I wanted to call you about. Is that helpful at all?
I mean, I think Instagram is helpful. I am just not great at Instagram.
You're just not getting on it enough.
I'm not getting on it enough.
By the way, it's Emerald and Laurel.
Yes.
On Instagram if you want to look
Emerald
her up.
and Laurel. Yeah, I need to be better about Instagram. Yeah. It's hard.
It's good for prospecting.
It's really good for prospecting. I think it's really great for showing people what you do. Right before we started, I said, I'm an introvert. So anybody that knows me is like, yeah, Emily's an introvert. Anybody that knows me is like, no, you're not. I'm like, no, I am. So like getting on to Instagram with a bunch of strangers feels like, oh, okay.
I got to give you one huge compliment though on your Instagram. I just pulled her Instagram up while we were talking. You put your location front and center. And I can't tell you how many people's Instagrams I go to, and they're like, we do this, and this, and you have no idea where.
Okay.
And
well,
so
that is Melissa.
Here's a little tip for you if you're listening. Go to your Instagram page, and if your homepage doesn't show where you operate, you're losing at least half the people that might follow you, and especially prospects, right?
Yeah.
Because if someone hears about Emerald or Laurel, they go to your page, you're not on there. They have no idea if you operate in Texas, let alone Austin. They're not going to follow you.
Yeah.
And then you've lost that lead that possibly will follow you and see what you're doing. And honestly, even if you're posting on a weekly basis, it's enough to be top of mind for people.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure you have that on there.
Totally agree. I'll be better.
That's a good one.
But Melissa gets credit for that. My assistant did the Instagram. So
That's
she
awesome.
gets shout out to Melissa.
Yeah,
Great job, Melissa.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so you've been in business for 15 years or so in Austin, doing mostly remodel work. Texas is a unique place in that we don't have to have licensure in Texas. I don't have a license. You don't have a license. No. I think it's an interesting place in that you could literally be an accountant one week and be a builder the next, which is, I'm saying this in a tongue-in-cheek way because my guest last week is a builder who was an accountant and was doing accounting for a construction company, did his first build and was like, I could do a way better job. Started his home building company. I think there's both a benefit and a detriment to that. Now that you've been in the business these number of years and you've seen all kinds of, you've worked on the same street as all kinds of different builders, and especially in Central Austin, we have everything going on. What do you, as a side note, what do you think about that low barrier to entry? It was good for you and I in some respects, but do you think we should institute some licensure in Texas?
I was gonna say for me, it was great that there wasn't. Although I did look, I was like, well, you have to be. I mean, there has to be. You certainly
have to have something.
You certainly must have a certificate.
Actually, no.
I was like, because technically, I don't know what the laws are now, but technically, when I was in interior design school,
you had to be licensed.
In order to say I'm an interior designer, you had to be licensed through the state. I mean, people obviously.
If you want to cut hair, you have to have a license.
Yeah, you have to have a license.
But if you want to build $1 million house, no license.
For it. Right, and so there is that kind of like gray area where you're weird. Like, I found it a little bit weird. I was ready to get licensed.
Yeah.
I've did all kinds of, studying for like, the lead accredited professional tests. I studied for that and took that test. I was like, I would think there would be maybe a low bar for entry for certification. Seems like that would potentially make a lot of sense.
At least some bar, even if it's a low bar. Yeah. Even if I can step over it, let's put something in there.
Agree.
Because you and I both have seen houses in Central Austin being built that look like you're a total mess. And then once the stucco's on or the finishes are on, you have no idea what's back there. And you're like, that is going to leak. That house is going to be a rotted, moldy house in 10 years.
Yes.
And code doesn't address that. And
well, that's like the house across. There was a house across from the Terrytown house that we worked on that as it was being built, because I maintained my relationship with that client, and I had gone over and she's like, that house is horrible.
It's pretty bad.
Like, it's really bad.
And we've seen that a lot.
And I was like, and then I feel bad because it's a spec house.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, the people that are buying it are spending
no idea.
A lot of money.
Yeah, they are.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
And the house is not good quality.
Yeah, and the home inspector is going to come at the end and be like, oh, this door needs adjusted or whatever. But the more important thing, which is the windy, the leaky windows that are going to happen, or the missing head flashings, or, whatever details are going to cause major rot and concern, they can't see those. So they're not on the home inspection list. It's pretty brutal.
No, but in those, for me, it's the amount of money too, right?
Yes, that's right.
That's the part that I'm like, wow.
And some of them are multi-million-dollar houses.
Yeah, that's what this
being built
is.
incredibly poorly.
Yes.
I know, it's sad.
Yeah, it's sad. It makes me sad, especially as someone who preservation is a big part of what I'm passionate about. And, preserving these older homes in Austin is a big part of what I feel passionate about. And when I see what I consider a historic or house being torn down and then that being built, I'm like, oh, that just like breaks my heart.
Totally.
Right? Like if you're going to tear down a house and build an architecturally significant structure that's built, with performance in mind, okay, right?
Sure.
But if you're going to tear down this, bungalow
and put a stucco box that's
and to put
modern,
a stucco box that's
and
modern
and
that's that you're like, I'm like, they have like the worst windows. I'm like, that is sad to me. Like we can do better. Like we can do better.
I know. I've gotten so many calls from those people around over the years to try and help them, and I can sometimes, and other times I can't. But I feel like there's a whole business in Austin for a future remodeler to rip off exteriors on these stucco modern houses and redo them correctly. Yeah. And figure out how to get insurance.
My current client is the parents of a past client of mine who I just did like a small like outdoor area for them. But that exact same thing is happening with them. They bought a beautiful house kind of near like that 9th Street kind of area where you get up. You think y'all did a house there. Yep. With Hugh Jefferson. Yep. So kind of in that area where they bought the house.
Like Castle Hill, basically.
It kind of is in that area, but it's stucco. And very expensive home. And did not know until they got into it that there was problems. Mold all in the walls behind the stucco, that it wasn't done properly. Brutal. And so now they're having to like remediate all of it and spend a lot of money. And it's just like, my heart I was like, oh, God, it's
so
just
bad. So painful.
Horrible.
So painful.
So yeah, it happens too much.
Yes, it does. Way too much.
It happens too much.
Emily, speaking of preparedness, you mentioned earlier you're a very prepared person. I asked you to think about ahead of time of the podcast a couple things you might pass on as wisdom to a young builder potentially watching who's like, I think I'm interested in getting into the business. Or even just a builder who's 10 years younger than us and hasn't been around the block. Give us some Emily wisdom. What are some things you were thinking about in terms of passing on?
Well, when you first asked me that, I thought, am I old enough to give wisdom? Like, is that what's happened to me?
Come on, now that you're in your 30s, you can talk about it.
I'm giving younger people, advice. I'm like, I guess that's what's happening. Okay,
right. Now
that's
that you're 32,
fine. Okay.
You can advise the 20-somethings.
Right. Okay, sounds good. But when you asked, I was like, 3 things. And I'm like, and then there was like in my mind, like, well, there's this and this and this and this and this. I mean, there's just like
2 dozen things.
There's just a laundry list of lessons learned and things in building a business. But I kind of just filtered them down to like 4 things.
Oh, I love it.
Not 3, but 4.
Fabulous.
And I have them written down here, which is values, define your services as early as you can. Set up your processes and systems. And relationships and collaboration.
Oh, I love it. Let's start with number 1.
So values, I kind of think about, especially when you start a business, I think it's really important to like say your values or know what they are.
I love that.
Because there's so many things that come up, especially with what we do. Yep. You're dealing with homeowners and vendors and tradespeople. And I mean, there's just so much going on. And a lot of times it's a lot of money. Yeah. And so it's a stressful environment.
Absolutely.
And so I think that when you're making decisions about what you are and aren't going to do, how you're going to handle situations, if you know that like your foundation is on these values, then that really informs how you're going to move through your business, right? That. So like for my business, my values are family, honesty, and integrity.
Fantastic.
And so
it's a great foundation.
For me, it's like, I don't know, I just think about family because most times I'm working for a family, residential. Yep. My trades have families. I have a family. Yeah. The vendors all have families. That's mostly, right? Yep. And so I want to make sure that when we're working, I'm thinking about not just my family. Sure. But like, for example, like my trades family. Yeah. Like, how's your wife doing? And you realize, oh, she's really sick, right? And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
That's going to affect their work
that you're
performance.
Carrying that, right? Or like, do you need more time? Like, or what is happening? And I think that that's important. Sometimes it gets lost and like, how much money did you bill and how big of a house did you make?
Right.
And, you know, all these kinds of things that we kind of lose track a little bit about, like why we're here and what we're doing it for.
Yeah,
so,
that's really good. I like that.
And then for me, for design, for like defining your services and kind of what you do, I think for me, I was not great at this. And I told you before, like you were really great at defining, like we build architecturally driven projects, performance is, you know, at the forefront of that. And so for me starting out, you know, I didn't have that defined, which I think is hard when you're starting out because you're also like, I need to make money. And
right.
so like,
I need to feed my family, so I don't want to be too niche.
Okay, like, so I think this is obviously with the caveat that like if you know, need to feed your children, you say yes to the job that's in front of you, right? Yeah, like let's stay flexible.
Yeah.
But it's helped me now that I've had a little bit more experience to say, okay, these are the things I'm going to do. So like at the beginning when I said, here are the 3 things we do.
Yep.
This is how we can serve you.
Yep.
That was like a 10-year process for me to get clarity on that and for me to also have enough money and savings in my business to have the ability to say that project isn't aligned with what we're doing right now.
That's not a great fit for us.
Right. That's not a good fit for us. And so I think that's the sooner you can do that, I think the better for you. And because that kind of leads me into the next thing, which is processes and systems. Because once you have your processes and systems set up for what your defined services are, you're going to become way more profitable. You're going to be way more efficient.
Yes.
And so, you know, if your processes and systems right now for me, for example, are set up for interior design only or for design build, if someone came to me and said, hey, can you build a new house for me? You know, this is a lesson in like, I mean, I can, but should I?
Right. I know how to.
Like, I was like, I can. And so I was taking on projects when I was younger where I was like, I mean, I can help you design your baby room.
Sure.
Okay, I don't have time to do that, but I'm saying yes to things that are not, you know, that aren't really
in your
where
wheelhouse.
I want to be, you know? And so it's like, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Totally.
And then once you have your processes and systems set up for those things that you've defined that you're going to do, it just makes it so much less stressful.
Yeah.
You know, because as soon as you step outside of it, you're like, oh, yeah, I didn't have a system set up for that.
Yeah, and I think also your processes and your systems allow you to stay in those guardrails that you are profitable on your jobs. That you're
I have guardrails written right here.
There you go. That you are going to make that money. As a side note, I have a buddy who does consulting these days, Luke Mesger. Did you ever know Luke when he lived here in Austin?
I know that last name.
He's moved now, Mesger Homes. He's moved out of Austin. He lives closer to Fort Worth now, but he's doing some process consulting for a builder friend of mine. And when he was building full-time here in Austin, I was always like, man, that guy's so process-oriented. Like, he knew Tuesday was his day that he was going to sit down in the office from 8 to noon and do, like, estimating and bidding.
Yeah.
And, like, Wednesday was his job site visit day, and he visited all his job sites on Wednesday. Thursday, he was doing billing and invoicing and yada, yada. And I was never that regimented as he was.
Yeah.
But I thought it was so interesting that his business really took clients that fit well into that. And he was really good about, you know, we can't really start your construction until I've got all of your selections finished, all of this and that.
Yep.
So that when we start construction, Craig, his project manager, can just rock on the project. And I only need to visit every Wednesday to check on Craig, make sure everything's happening correctly, yada, yada. I don't have to be out there Tuesday at 2 and then again Friday morning and then again this and that. Because the information wasn't there. And so he was always so good at process. And it just reminds me how much our businesses as builders, we tend to be very free-flowing. And the more we can get those processes down, the more we can be profitable. And also that makes us less flighty and less taking of all these random jobs.
Yeah, I think that helped me a lot too. And like that was my process that I created for our design build clients is very similar to his. So when we go through the design process, we design everything down to these are the 3 white paint colors we're going to sample on site. This is the hardware we're going to install.
So good.
So everything is completely specified. And then I go and a part of a pre-construction, which I've started charging for because you told me to. Because you told me to.
I love it.
I was giving it away.
I love it.
But it took so much time, and I was feeling annoyed during the process
Totally.
of like doing pre-construction and going out and getting bids and doing all this stuff. And I was like, oh, if you're feeling annoyed, it's because you're not being paid.
Yep. That's right.
So as soon as I was getting paid, I was like, not annoyed. This is fine. Just doing my work, right? So, but during that pre-construction time is where I take all the specifications that we've put together and I have all the trades out and we get all the written bids for exactly what it's going to cost.
So good.
And then give it to the client so that they have a very clear vision of what the budget's going to be. Of course, for renovations, I always build in a contingency. But since I've started building, like none of my projects have gone over budget.
That's awesome.
Because we stick with the plan.
That's great.
It's more enjoyable for the owners.
For sure.
Well, like, here's the roadmap. This is what you've agreed to build.
Yep.
And this is what it's going to cost.
For sure.
And they're like, okay, great, let's do it. You know? So I think that, again, those systems and processes are super important.
Speaking of those, one other tip for you, any younger builders listening, we work with a company called Breakthrough Academy on the Build Show. They have their own podcast here. They're really good at helping builders and actually other companies as well, tradesmen and women, set up their processes. So if you're thinking about getting into business, if you're young in business and need some help in that, look up Breakthrough Academy. Okay, so we still have one more to dive into. What was the fourth one again?
Relationship and collaboration.
Oh, I want to hear this. This is going to be interesting.
I have a big thing about collaboration and relationship. You know, one of my favorite places to be is on a job site with trades. I mean, I love it. I'm so happy there.
That's awesome.
I love making things with people. I just respect their craftsmanship and what they do. I mean, from drywall, watching that happen, that process is like, I mean, and you have drywall shorty. I like watch all her stuff.
It's pretty awesome, isn't she?
So it's an art. I mean, it's an art to do that. I was like, if anybody doesn't think so, go pick up a patch kit at Home Depot or Lowe's and patch a hole of drywall and make it look good and blend it in, and then you'll know. You know,
your ego will take a good hit.
Yeah, you'll take a good hit. You're like, I can do that. No, you cannot.
No, actually, you're not very good
can't.
at that.
Right. So, but in that is like just collaborating and being on site with the trades, and those relationships have been so important. And I will say that, you know, I can't do this job without them and those relationships. And so I've spent a lot of my time and effort building relationships with people that share my values, right? So it's like finding trades that share my values of like working really hard, doing good work, and learning. Like, I'm super curious. So I've worked with trades before who weren't super curious about like, oh, there's this new paint that's out, or there's this new, or I saw on the Build Show this, you know, this installation, like, let's try that. Or here's a new product that came out. And so finding those partners who are interested in that and are curious, you know, and I think too, just like relationships with clients and collaborating with your clients too, right? That they're an integral part of what we do. And there's a lot of education and understanding who they are and what they want and what they need. And I think sometimes that gets lost a little bit, where it's just like we're just producing something. But again, that goes back to our values of like family and relationship and collaboration. Like, this is a home for what we do. It's a home for a family, for people who are going to live there. And I care deeply about that. And it's not a reflection. The house to me is not a reflection of my design or my build. Like, I want it to be a reflection of the family that's living there, so that when they walk in, they're like, this is my house. Yeah. I feel good here.
That's awesome.
Right. So that's sort of, so those are like, I think it's interesting because those are, you know, sort of like pie in the sky, like hot, like kind of more like emotional,
those
like
are all
things,
great.
You know, they're not as like, you know, tactile, like, don't do this, or this one time this happened, and, you know.
I would say, though, that relationship one is that hidden secret of all the really good builders that I know. Because you being on the job and having a good relationship with, you know, for instance, for me, it's Rick, my electrician. Rick does all my work. Rick's watching out for me when I'm not there.
Yes.
Rick doesn't give me some crazy bill that I wasn't expecting.
Yes.
You know, we're a team. And that relationship that I've got with this trade who's been around a long time is a big key to getting Reisinger build jobs really dialed job after job after job. Was that hard for you at the beginning when you were first starting? Because it sounds like your first big project really was your own project. How did you find that group of trades in 2009 when you did that first job?
Well, this is funny. Well, I drove around Terrytown.
Smart.
And I looked at houses by builders that I respected.
I love it. This is such good advice.
One of them was you.
That's great.
And here's the funny part, is that one of those trades is still my trade partner today.
That's so awesome.
So
I love
it
it.
was so funny. Actually, the guy that I actually worked with, he passed away, but his apprentice is now who I still, so it's really the same. It's the same.
Same company, basically.
Same company, same person, basically, same group. Yeah, I drove around.
So great.
And was like, okay, there's Reisinger, that's so-and-so. And I would walk up and be like, hey, you know.
I'm doing this big remodel.
Or I'd call, or I'd be like, yeah, I'm working on this. But it's funny because that trade, he told me, because it was a busy time to build whenever I was building, that he was like, how are you going to get people to show up? Because it's like busy.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. I guess I'm just, I don't know how I'm going to. Then at the end of the project, he was like, he's like, I'm actually really surprised that you got this done in 6 months.
Everybody showed up.
He's like, I can't believe you got people to come out and you finished this renovation in 6 months or 7 months or whatever it was. And I was like, yeah, I was like, I don't know.
You know, I hate to say it, but the bar for us as builders is so low that, you know, if you pay people on time, if you treat them like a relationship, like you mentioned, and you take care of them, they're like, all of a sudden, they really do things that other people are like, what? They show up for you? You're like, yeah, of course they do.
Yeah, well, that brings me to a story that I was standing next to my plumber who, I mean, now I just feel like we're like friends.
That's awesome.
Like, I'm like, it's like we're like, you know, trading, like, what vacation are you doing? What's happening? You know, and I'm like, how's your kid? You know? But I heard it, and this person on the phone, and I was like, who is that? And we got the phone, I was like, they were just so
like yelling,
rude, and just like condescending, and just like, you need to be over here. And I was like, who was that? He's like, oh, it's a project manager on a project. I was like, people talk to you that way? He's like, oh yeah. And he's like, but I'm not going over there today. And I was like, yeah, I mean, like, who wants to go? Like, who wants to go hang out with that person? You know, like, they're yelling, and it's like, that's just not. Life is too short. You know what I mean? Like, we can do good work. We can be respectful of each other.
Totally.
And I mean, it's just like, it's too much. I mean, like, there's too many other things to worry about.
I mean, it goes back to your number one, family, right? I mean, if you actually care about people, then they're going to care about you.
Yeah.
That's
I
for
think
sure.
that's true.
That makes a huge difference. With
yeah.
our
Well, and like
trades.
you were saying, with your relationship in terms of like taking care of you, like, I feel like now I've built all these relationships that if my project manager's not there, or I can't get by there that day, like, and my plumber's there, or my electrician's there, like, they're looking out for me.
Yeah.
And they're saying, hey, this, like, what, is this okay? Or someone showed up with this. And, you know, we really are a team.
And the thing I like about that story too, Emily, with you, is you're not a giant company. You don't have like 10 projects going where that plumber knows, oh, as soon as I'm done with this job of Emily's, I'm going to that job of Emily's. And as soon as that one's done, I'm going to that one. No, they're working for other people. You're just one of a dozen people that call them. But because you have a good relationship with them, even though you haven't called them in 6 months or whatever the period of time is, they're like, oh, great. Let me see where I can slot you in. Yeah, I think I can be there in 2 weeks. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Right? And you have this great relationship. I think a lot of people think that unless they're this big company that does $20 million a year of construction, they can't have good trades. And that's totally not true, especially based on your advice of let's start with family. Let's start with relationships. Let's manage the job well. I've always thought of you as a great communicator, and I think that makes a big difference. And and hearing you talk about relationships makes a lot of sense because I see you on a semi-regular basis at kids' football games or things like that on random occasions. But you've always been good with people. And when I was on the job site with you, even 10 years ago, I could tell that like you're really good at managing the trades around you.
Yeah, I think that is a strength that we have is that communication. As a past client said, she was like, it was like communicating, like I understood what was happening. I understood where we were going. So I think that communication is the key for sure.
And you don't have to be a huge company. I think that's the other thing I want people to listen or to get from this, right? You're really a 2.5 person company, let's say.
Yeah. I mean, communication is as simple as sending a text message.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To my clients every morning.
Right. And
this is what's happening. And I was like, this is what's happening today, or this was not expected. FYI, like this is happening.
Yeah.
It's a quick text message to anybody. Yes, you can have one of the big, powerful SaaS, systems where your client can get on a portal. Right. That's great. Like, those those systems are super powerful, and I would love to have one of those. They're just very expensive and really hard to onboard, right?
Yeah,
Like the time that it takes to do that. So when I say systems and communication, that doesn't have to be complicated,
That's
right?
Yeah,
Right.
it can be just a routine where you're talking to them and meeting them on a regular basis.
Yeah.
What do we miss, Emily? Was there anything that you wrote down in your notes that you wanted to make sure you got across that we missed on the podcast?
I don't think so. That was kind of it. I mean, there's like 1,000 other like practical takeaways,
For sure.
right, that we could talk about. But
We'll have to come back for part 2 with Emily and on the
we'll do part 2 with
the other
what I'll talk to you about, like
996 things that she does.
yeah. I was like,
those
we can
4.
take part 2 is like I could share the like PTSD I have from a brad nail going into the recirc line of a water heater on a remodel.
That's not good. Yeah.
So there's
the
those
slow
stories.
leak.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we've
there's
all
just-
had those stories.
Yeah.
That's
so
for
there's
sure.
that. I think you had one with the toilet at the
My neighbor's
at your
house. No, it wasn't my house.
wasn't your
Thankfully,
house.
it was my neighbor's house.
Okay.
Had a brad nail or maybe a 15 gauge finish nail from some shiplap they put up behind the toilet, and they penetrated the water line, and it didn't start leaking until about 9 months after, a year after.
Yeah, similar story.
So they
after
just
the
didn't
after
know.
the nail corroded
and it was
and
such
broke
a
down.
small like pee amount of water because it was finally the nail corroded.
Yeah.
That it was just such a small amount of water they couldn't figure out what it was.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I kind of thought the wife was crazy. Like, I can't believe she's smelling mold. Like, come on, seriously? Are you
that's
sure?
speaking of like your trades having your back. When that happened, my painter was there working on the paneling, and he was like, "I feel like there's something going on." I mean, and then it was like
Interesting.
within, and I was like, of course, I'm like freaking out. I was like, all hands on deck. Again, speaking of relationships,
this.
it was like I was like the carpenter, the plumber, me, the painter. We were all there in like 30 minutes. It's
That's
like
awesome.
it's like emergency, right? So yeah, but I talked to my uncle who's a builder in Colorado, and I was like beating myself up about it. But it's a remodel. We didn't know, and it was
So
just
easy.
like he's like, it happened to me.
Did
It took
you-
a year for his to.
Did you hear about the leak I had in my personal build when mine happened quickly, luckily, but my cabinet guy had put a screw into the back of a tankless, or an in-wall toilet.
That's
Like an
what
in-wall
I was talking
carriage.
about earlier. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So at my personal build, when I was turning the water on for the first time, I started having water rain out of my ceiling cans in the foyer. And we're all like, turn off the water. What the heck? Something's leaking. And we figured out the cabinet guy had missed the stud, put a screw in, then backed it out and made a pinhole in the back of the plastic tank. And from then on, every time we put one in, we've made a like 18 gauge metal
thing.
back for that thing. So nobody can put a screw in the back by accident.
Yeah.
And that was really painful. I had to rip out all the tile, replace the carriage.
Oh yeah, mine was my issues. There's tile. This was drywall, and then this beautiful paneling that we had just put up. So it wasn't just
painful.
like, it's just drywall, cut it, fix it. It was the whole thing.
Yeah, mine
But
was too.
so there's plenty of those stories.
So
like,
painful.
Yeah.
Emily, really appreciate it. Guys, go check out Emerald and Laurel on Instagram so you can follow along with Emily's projects, and really appreciate you having the time to come in and
Thanks
spend
for
time in
having
the
me.
studio. This is our Origin series, guys. You go check out our other ones, and we got a bunch more in the future. I think it's really fun to bring our builder friends in, hear their war stories, hear their advice for the younger builders, commiserate on a few things that have happened. As I said at the top of the hour, I really truly believe that some of your closest relationships are with people that understand the stress, understand what we go through in the business. So it's fun, Emily. I don't think I know you super well. It's not like I see you on a weekly or monthly basis.
No.
But I always knew I liked you and that you built a great project. So I'm really thankful you took the time to come on.
I appreciate you having me in.
For sure. Guys, hit
so
that
much.
subscribe button. We've got new podcasts every single Friday. With that being said, follow us on the Facebook and the Instagrams. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on the Build Show podcast.